Good morning, everyone. I'm the Vice President of the Merrimack Valley Chamber, Mike Bevilacqua. I want to thank you all for joining us for an important meeting here today with two great speakers, Ed Crespo and also Professor Zanibel Melo. So thank you both for joining us. Before we get going, I just want to introduce our President, Joe Bevilacqua, who's going to say a few words, and then I'll introduce speakers and we'll get the presentation kicked off.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce. We're in this situation right now where we're doing both in-person and virtual programs, and we're trying to find the right balance that everyone is comfortable at. You know, at one point in time, we think that people are more comfortable being in person, then we feel that they're more comfortable being virtual. So we're trying to find the balance as to what's right. I think today is a very, very special program. Eduardo has been literally a friend of ours for over 20 years. But what I want to stress about Eduardo before Michael introduces him formally is that he was well ahead of his time talking about the opportunities with the Hispanic business community decades ago. And unfortunately, we really didn't listen well enough. But the opportunities exist today. He's going to bring us up to speed. He's going to catch us up on the tremendous opportunities there are. And I can tell you that the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce is continuing to work in that direction in terms of encouraging everyone coming together in terms of one business community. And I think it's on a successful track. And Eduardo was one of the reasons why, and I mean that in all sincerity. He's a very, very modest person. So he won't tell you any of this, but I will, because I've had that experience and we've been friends for over 20 years. We've served on a couple boards together. And I've watched him and admired his ability to work together, whether it be with the Workforce Investment Board or with the United Way. He truly has been a leader, and he's really an expert in this field. And you can go anywhere across the country, you won't find a better speaker than Eduardo and his team. So I'd like to bring it back to Michael. I've got a meeting.
Joe, let me talk for 20 more seconds. Just waiting for our video to finish loading. So
okay. So what I want to say also, one thing is that we've got some upcoming events on Monday. We have our Women in Business Conference with Congresswoman Laurie Trahan and a panel of women business entrepreneurs. We have a very, very special program coming up on November 10th on our Veterans Program. It's a free breakfast program. It'll be held here in the city of Lawrence at Salvatore's. We're going to have former Secretary Francisco Urena as the keynote speaker. Then we have a panel of 3 veteran entrepreneurs. And for the first time, we're going to be introducing a very, very special recognition award in memory and in honor of the unfortunate soldier from Lawrence, Sergeant Johani, who was killed in Afghanistan. It'll be an annual presentation. We've identified the award recipient. The family will be in attendance, and it'll be a free breakfast. We want to make this a very, very respectful program. And again, it'll be a presentation of an award in her honor. But that'll be you want me to do it?
yeah.
But that'll be on the 10th. The Chamber's holiday party is December 2nd. And then as you know, there's a whole host of mixers, networking at noon lunches, and other programs coming up. And please take advantage of the Chamber. Let me introduce my good friend, Eduardo Crespo from Hispanic Market Solution, headquartered here in Lawrence, Mass. He is a U.S. citizen who immigrated from Ecuador as a serial entrepreneur. He's owned 4 companies in the U.S. and Latin America. We're very proud of him for that. He is the founder, CEO of Hispanic Market Solution. He specializes in helping companies understand, reach, employ, and service the U.S. Hispanic market as consumers and workforce participants. He is and I mean this sincerely, he is a relentless advocate for their inclusion and recognition as essential contributors to the economy and society. His core strengths are increasing awareness, providing strategic marketing and recruitment solutions. He crafts compelling campaigns and connecting brands with Hispanic consumers. And I want to say thank you once again. As I mentioned, Eduardo and I have been friends for over 20 years. He truly is an inspiration to a lot of people. And I think you're going to find this program very, very informative and helpful. And the reason why this program is important and having someone like Eduardo and his team as speakers is the fact they're local. You know, I always amaze myself when I go to other chamber organizations. They brought in a speaker from Chicago or New York or California. And then I say to myself, well, if you have a question or you want to utilize his services or her services, how do you get in touch with them? And I think it's so important that Eduardo is right here and we see him and talk to him all the time. And I want to really turn it over to Michael before Eduardo starts. Is there anything else we need to do before we start, or can we just get into the program?
No, I think we're good to go. So thank you again for joining us. I just want to mention real quick that next week we have two great programs. We have our Women Business Conference on Monday, and also at Michael's Functional in Haverhill, and also a networking noon lunch next Thursday at Maria's in Haverhill. And then we have a bunch of free programs also. I'm sure Joe mentioned them. I apologize for just uploading the video again. We have a free mixer on November 4th, followed by a great host of programs. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to our two great speakers today. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, Joe. Very kind of you. Thank you for the accolades. And you know that I always respect you and your leadership at the chamber, and also Michael, for all the work that you do in behalf of not only the business community, but your engagement, your commitment to the well-being, not only of people in Lawrence and surrounding communities, but the whole Merrimack Valley. So thank you very much. Now, I would like to have Michael play a video that is regarding Hispanic Heritage Month, and I hope you enjoyed it. It's only 2 minutes.
On the national calendar, Hispanic Heritage Month kicks off today. This celebration has been expanding over the years, and ABC's Gio Benitez now with a look on the key contributions this community has made.
Today, September 15th, marks the start of Hispanic Heritage Month. Bienvenidos, or welcome to the month-long fiesta, recognizing how Hispanic and Latino communities have contributed to U.S. culture. From activists like labor organizer Cesar Chavez fighting in the 60s and 70s for better wages and conditions for farm workers, and government leaders like U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in the U.S. Senate, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. In 2009, Sonia Sotomayor became the first Latina justice to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court.
Congratulations and welcome to the court.
To big-time athletes like Roberto Clemente in 1973, becoming the first Latino player inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame, followed by other greats like Alex Rodriguez, Mariano Rivera, and David Ortiz, aka Big Papi. And entertainment stars. In 1962, Rita Moreno became the first Hispanic woman to win an Academy Award, then a rare accomplishment. An EGOT, winning an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Award, helping to open doors for future stars like Selena, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Jennifer Lopez, and many more. According to the latest U.S. Census report, more than 60 million people identify as Hispanic or Latino, making them the second largest ethnic group in the United States. But what's the history behind Hispanic Heritage Month? Well, it began in 1968 under President Lyndon Johnson as Hispanic Heritage Week. 20 years later, President Ronald Reagan expanded the week to a month, enacting it into public law.
We're not just here to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Week, but to announce that in 1989, the period between September 15th and October 15th will be Hispanic Heritage Month.
The start date, September 15th, is significant because it's the independence anniversary for many Latin American countries. Entering its fourth decade as an official celebration, Hispanic Heritage Month marks the countless ways Hispanics have helped build the country we live in today. Viva la vida.
Viva la vida. I learned a lot. That was
Awesome.
really cool. We want to thank Gio Benitez.
Thank you very much, Michael. And well, let me tell you what it is that is going to be happening. You know, I will go first. I will talk about traditional media. We'll talk about some data points, some demographics, something a little bit about acculturation. And then my partner, Zanibel Melo, will introduce her later on. She will deal with the social and digital marketing communications and media, so that it will be a two-phase, a two-piece program. The importance of the Latino market, while Michael gets the PowerPoint on, you know, the importance of the Latino market is evident. I mean, the data shows that there are 20,000 baby boomers retiring every single day for the next 20 years, 20,000. And while the white majority population is declining in numbers and percentages, the Latino and ethnic communities are rising. What that means is that the older consumers, the older very active members of the economy, if they are leaving because they are retiring and or going somewhere better than our world, then somebody has to pick up the place. I mean, somebody has got to pay for Social Security. You know, the economy needs more vitality. We need to be competitive globally. And you see what's happening today with a lack of employees. I mean, everybody nowadays is complaining. I mean, everybody's searching. You know, where we? You know, I spoke with the lady that owns a manufacturing company. She said, you know, Eduardo, we can expand our production lines. I mean, we have back orders because we do not have people that can produce what it is that we're looking for. So whether you're a financial institution, whether you are a hospital or in any manufacturing complex, it's happening. I mean, it's going to be very tough to hire folks. So the title is how to effectively market, communicate, and recruit Hispanics, and this is presented, of course, by the Merrimack Valley Chamber. Next one, please. I begin with this statement, which I wrote, and that is to set kind of the tone to this presentation. The issue of language and status quo. You know, the business nowadays, society, demographics, and the evolution of business, the mindset of millennials, and the pandemic. I mean, really, I mean, if you add all these factors together, the confluence of these issues affecting our lives on a daily basis means that there is change in the air. And that change is that for people that still want to hold on to English only, that really doesn't work anymore. I mean, look at Facebook, and you will hear that from Zanibel later. Look at social media. I mean, look at the speed of communications nowadays. People are closer to their friends, to their relatives, to their companies, to whatever online. It's an instant communication. When the prior generations, when the East, you know, when Europeans came to this country, you know, 300 years ago, and even, well, let's say up to 50 or 60 years ago, there were no computers, there were no cell phones, etc. So the whole issue of communications has changed significantly. In the last 20 years, we have had the biggest change and improvement in communications that we have ever seen. So institutions and companies, to be relevant nowadays, they must be progressive and innovative. They really do, to reach and engage with these unprecedented growing market segments. Next one, please. The Hispanics identity, you may have heard, and I have heard, you know, the term Hispanic. Well, that's kind of common sense. Hispanic is a people that speak Spanish, literally, and or they come from Spanish-speaking countries, or descendancy. A Latino person is a person that was born and or raised and or identifies of Latin American origin. And this, by the way, includes Brazilians. So when you're talking about a Latino community, you're not only talking about the Spanish-speaking community, but also Brazil, which is the largest country, of course, in South America. Latinx, you know, that term propped up, if I'm not mistaken, about 5 years ago or so. I really don't understand that term. I don't use it. I don't like it. Somebody came up with the idea of a word not saying Latina or Latino or Hispanic, but rather Latinx, which is supposed to be gender neutral. Now, in Spanish, there is what is called a male and female way of identifying, and in the language also. That's why somebody came up with the idea that instead of saying a male person or a female person, a Latinx person includes any of both particular backgrounds. 50% of Hispanics or Latinos, usually they regard themselves as from their family's country of origin. In my case, depending on the setting, I call myself an Ecuadorian American. I do. Or I say I'm an American of Ecuadorian descent. Just 20%, according to this, and the quote is at the bottom of the New York Times, just 20% most often use a pan-ethnic term such as Hispanic or Latino. Because we, even though, I mean, I am an immigrant, like Joe said. Now, my children, I have 3 boys and I have 9 grandchildren. They would most likely, they call themselves Hispanics because they do speak Spanish and they do identify with being descendants of Spanish-speaking parents, because my bride is also from Ecuador. So what is your preference? I mean, it's up to you. I mean, if you're talking to different employees in your company, if you're talking to consumers, be aware that, you don't have to be caught up on Hispanic, Latino, Latinx. Just bear in mind that they are important for you, for your company, as consumers, as clients, as students, as patients in societies nowadays. Next one, please. Latinos in Greater Lawrence and in literally anywhere in the country in general, why do we come here? I mean, we came here just like the prior generations. This is a country of immigrants, except for the Native Americans that were already here. We're working hard to help our families, and especially the abuelitos. Abuelitos is a grandparents, and I happen to be, well, of course, a grandfather. And we, culturally, we are always attentive to the elderly. Latinos are very hierarchical, meaning that we are very traditional. Some people will think that politically, Latinos are on the left. Maybe politically, it's a right, center, or left. But when you're talking about family values, when you're talking about respect for the elderly, we are a very hierarchical. I mean, my grandfather, when he was alive, I mean, my grandfather was, a figure in our family that was extremely respected. And I valued that very much. And I always remember his advice and so forth. Most Latinos in the Merrimack Valley area, we will see some data points in a minute. They come from Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, El Salvador, Colombia, and a few from Ecuador, where I come from. You know that I had to give it a plug. We are enriching the economic, business, sports, Red Sox tonight, please, cultural and political systems of the region. And the last point is very, very important. We are impacting significantly the local economies and workforce participation. When you take us, next one, please. In the New England, Hispanic population, I listed the New England states because, some of your companies, may also be doing business in Rhode Island or in Connecticut. But take a look at the population growth of Hispanics in Massachusetts, 41.4%. That means that from 2010 to 2020, the Hispanic community grew 41.4%. When you're talking about everybody else, all non-Hispanics in Massachusetts, that population grew 7.4%. So you can see, 600 times the growth of all the other groups, 600 times, 7.4% compared to 41.4. And the 20th on the right-hand side, that means that is the highest growth in the nation, the 20th in the nation out of the 50 states. In New Hampshire, it's more dramatic. In New Hampshire, the Latino community, the Hispanic community grew 62%, and everybody else 4.6. Now, what is the significance of that? Well, the significance is that the Latino diaspora, we are leaving some urban areas because in urban areas, as you know, there is more density of people. There may be some social issues like drugs and unemployment, and the cost of housing it's crazy. It's literally crazy. So people are going up by Route 93 or Route 3 to Nashua. Now there are a significant number of Hispanics in Nashua, in Manchester, New Hampshire, going up, and even there is a Guatemalan, and I'm not kidding you because I said Guatemalans in Vermont. There is a Guatemalan association in the state of Vermont. So Latinos are no longer concentrated. Well, significantly we're concentrated in some of the major, the New York, LA, Chicago, Miami. But slowly but surely, we are moving and going into areas of the country where there were not a significant number of Latinos. Look at Vermont, 68.4%, and the overall state only grew 2.8%. No wonder that Vermont has a program, I think, that they would pay you $10,000 if you move to Vermont and you get a job and you hold it for a year, I think it is. Next one, please. The Lawrence population here in Lawrence, where you will see 82.6% Latinos, 82.6%. So 4 out of 5, and growing. So not only is the population growing, but it's also the growth, and the chamber knows this. Latinos are becoming owners of property owners. They are becoming landlords. I can tell you that there are 3 families in Lawrence that own a good number of old mill buildings that have been converted to office space and condominiums and schools that are owned by Latinos. Actually, I invited a president of a bank to a meeting in Lawrence, and we met in the building right behind City Hall. And the building right behind City Hall is a historical property, and that is owned by a Hispanic person. So it's no longer Latinos living in the poor area of town, which there are. I'm not denying that there is poverty, but there are also, depending on how you look at the situation, there is also a great movement in the financial sector. A new bank is coming up in Lawrence. They are building a new facility in the city, and this will be the first new financial institution that is building its own branch in Lawrence in the last 30 or 40 years. The first one. So you can tell. Next one, please. The languages spoken, when you're communicating with a community, of course, language is extremely important. Some people tell me, gee, Eduardo, I'm confused. I have heard that Puerto Ricans and Dominicans don't understand each other. Well, if you're talking about, their national teams playing baseball against one another, they don't understand each other because, each team wants to win. That's how it goes. But don't let be fooled. There is only one Espanol. There is only one Spanish language. We do have a CNN in Spanish. There are not 2, 3, or 5 CNNs. Just like in the US, there is a CNN, which is actually a global production, but they do have a US feed, and they only have one feed, which is English. And you cannot tell me that there are differences in Mississippi, in the Bronx, in LA, and in, let's say, Washington State. If you sit 4 or 5 people around the table and you talk to them, or you have them talk about whatever, they are going to have different accents. They are going to have different ways of talking about things. That is the same thing in the Latino world. So we are only 1 at 75%, 74.5% speak Spanish, and 21.8 English only. So you can see that only 1 out of 5 speak English only at home. Next one, please. This is a methodology that my company has created. because it really, really helps understand, how to tackle the Hispanic market, how to embed, how to incorporate this tremendously growing market segment within the core business strategy. So let me be very open on this. I'm not advocating for translations. Translations do not work. Google Translation, maybe you can use that with your children, with your buddies. Never ever use Google Translate and publish something, or include it in your website as a translator, because you will be embarrassed. You will see that a robot cannot understand what the tone of the conversation is. Google does not know who you are trying to speak with or communicate to. So that really doesn't work. There is a term called transcreation, and that's what we do. Transcreation is when you take a particular statement, phrase, article, press release, product description, and you do it in a culturally appropriate way, and linguistically appropriate and culturally relevant. So bear that in mind. Translation, also another thing that I would like to share. Just because you have a number of quote unquote bilingual employees, does that mean that they are communicators? And the answer is no. So think about this. When you are communicating with a public, when you're publishing something in your website, when you are creating different pieces of communication, whether it be online or whether it be in print or broadcast, doesn't your company go through 2 or 3 reviews to make sure that it is as perfect as it could possibly be, and that it is relevant, that it's timely, that it really conveys what it is that you're trying to achieve with that piece of communication? So when it comes to the Hispanic market, why would you relegate that to someone that you think is fully bilingual? And even if that person is fully bilingual, is he or she a communicator? Is she a journalist? Is she an expert in writing and in communicating? Please bear that in mind. So do not, be consistent in your processes. So have the same level of reviews and the same level of attention to any communication piece. Don't just say, well, just translate it and post it, because most likely it is not accurate, it's not right, and people know it. And the last thing that you want is for people to think that you're patronizing this community. That's you don't want it that way. So this particular methodology is called URES, and the U is for understand. This will be the beginning of an engagement. Understanding what? Understanding what is happening internally and externally. What is your relationship with the Latino community? Do you know who they are? Do you know your employees, where do they come from, or your customers? Do you train them? Do you talk to them? Do you communicate with them? Market research, does it make sense? Really, does it make sense for your company or your bank, your credit union, or your hospital, your healthcare organization to enter this market and or to expand your input into this market? And you do that through market research, focus groups, one-on-one interviews, online interviews, etc. That's the understanding piece. Needs analysis internally, when we are called by a particular company, they said, Eduardo, we are really missing the boat. We are not in tune to not only Latinos, but ethnic folks. There may be Brazilians in the mix, there may be Cambodians, there may be Vietnamese, Haitians. And so can you help us? And before you, before you, we give, look, we really need to understand what the challenge is. So that's what we call it, needs analysis. The reach, the R for reach, it means any and all communication strategies, media, efforts, and any other tool that you would need, like content marketing, branding, digital marketing, public relations. So the reach is very important. Remember the language piece that we just saw a minute ago. So make sure that you communicate with folks depending. The way to go, to be honest, is bilingual. Okay, you cover all bases. The employee nowadays, this section here, we have actually created a totally new presentation regarding on the E, on the employee or employment, because right now there is such a scarcity of labor, a scarcity of qualified or qualifiable labor, that this is, well, it's bad for the economy, but it's good for Latinos. And let me tell you why. A lot of Latinos, have not been hired because they probably do not meet 100% of the employment criteria or the selection criteria that is being posted on the job boards online. And so they just don't apply because they don't meet all those qualifications. And now what companies are doing, and what we suggest to companies, is that they really look at the postings, the job requirements, and see if all these requirements are still viable and needed, so that they could possibly expand it, not to hire unqualified or unqualifiable employees, but rather to give a better chance for people that have not been hired in the workforce and that could certainly be an asset to your organization. So the whole posting of the job, we also, hear me out on this one. Interview the interviewer. Interview the interviewer. A lot of interviewers, they are not trained about cultural norms, about non-facial expressions, about terms, about language, what the whole psychology of interviewing. A lot of recruiters, they have the same old 30-year-old antiquated tactics of interviewing people, and they expect certain keywords when you're interviewing somebody on the phone or face-to-face or through a Zoom, and then they just disqualify the people because they may be qualified, but the interviewer says, you know what, she really didn't cut it. We wanted somebody more aggressive, and this person was more passive. So those are psychological, behavioral interactions with people that needs to be revisited. It really does. The promotion inside, the mentoring, very important. The name of the game nowadays in employment is not only hiring, but it's retaining. Because you know how much it costs to retrain somebody that is already on board. And then the employee or business resource groups, muy importantes, they're very important. They're growing and growing. They have been around for 20 years, so it's nothing new. But lately, they have been growing in importance in the marketplace. And service is something that some companies really don't pay much attention to it. If your company assumes that your customer experience is awesome, well, how do you know? Have you asked? Have you done evaluations? Have you interviewed people? Are you honest to your brand? I mean, by saying, oh, the experience of people coming into my banking branch is just awesome. Well, really, is it really? Well, it probably is, but you really need to know. So the experience analysis, very important. Customer service training, it should be an ongoing deal. And diversity, not only recruitment, but diversity training. We have clients, and through our daily lives and so forth. We hear so many stories, the Latinos are this and the Latinos are that. And well, have you found out why that is? So instead of being stereotypical and saying Latinos just don't want to work, they leave my company. Well, why do they leave? Are you paying them well? Is the work environment safe? Do they feel welcomed? So you need to kind of ask and find out professionally all those questions. And the final point is corporate social responsibility. We really need all companies, small and large. The chamber is showing corporate social responsibility. I don't want my clients to just sell to or hire Latinos in their workforce, but I would like these organizations and companies to engage. Next one, please. I will be finishing in 4 minutes, Zanibel. I know you're looking at your watch here. The region strategies, very quickly. You need to segment your market. So if you're aiming at selling insurance or selling, in retailing, whatever it may be that you may be selling, segment your market. Are you looking at younger consumers, middle age? Are you looking at females? And according to that, then you create your own strategy. Combine good, solid messaging with language and culture. Once again, don't ask Maria Lopez to be the communicator, the advertising agency, the public relations person, because just because she happens to be Latina, it doesn't mean that she has all this knowledge or wisdom. Traditional media, word of mouth, we all know around the world, word of mouth is the best referral, the best way of building a brand, a positive outcome of a brand. Radio is extremely popular in the Hispanic space. Radio, we do many campaigns throughout New England. And for us, radio and social media are the ones that we use. But we're talking about traditional. Social media is not considered traditional, but it's considered more modern-like. So that's what I didn't include it here. TV, of course, I don't know if you know, but NBC Universal, that is owned by Comcast, they bought Telemundo, which is the second largest Spanish TV network in the country, and they're doing phenomenal. More and more advertisers are catering and reaching out specifically to the Latino market. That's why that media is alive and well. And print also, there are newspapers. I have to be honest, print is certainly losing its importance in the marketplace, but there are still people that read newspapers and magazines. Public and media relations, always important to tell your story. I mean, to these communities, if you do if you contribute to some organization and so forth, let the public know, because it's good for you, for your brand, and it's also good for the community. Next one, please. Community engagement, I cannot emphasize more about community engagement. It's good for business. Believe me, I mean, not only is it a tax write-off, I mean, if you are giving a donation or if you have a foundation, just intentionally look, where are your dollars going to? Have they been going to the same old organizations for the last 5, 10, 20 years? Have you added new organizations? And there are plenty of community-based, struggling organizations that are really trying to make it to help communities of color and minorities and women and so forth. So look around and be engaged. Understanding values, having an intentional engagement is extremely important. Latinos are not all, we all do not come from one country, we come from 20 different countries. So what role can your company do? What can you do in order to engage with companies, and individuals and families? And if you're not bilingual, Michael, there is still time. So you can be speaking Espanol with the señoritas and have a great time too. So next one, please. And this is the last one, the Latino workforce. It's a present and the future, the demographic changes. You saw a couple of slides. By the way, I will send Michael a bibliography of resources, of data resources that he can send out to you, those that are registered and those that are present here today. We talked about the retiring baby boomers. Progressive companies, you need to engage. You need to really be intentional about this. HR is facing a new set of challenges. Like I mentioned before, you know, the interview, the interviewer, the whole posting, the whole incorporation of cultural values and linguistic considerations. And what is the future of US Hispanics? Well, you know, we did have, you know, an African-American president. There will be the time, I don't think I'll see it, but there will be the time there will be a Hispanic-American president. We have had also in Massachusetts a Black governor. We will have governors. Right now, we have one member in the Supreme Court. We'll possibly have two in the next 10 or 20 years. The city of Lawrence is the two candidates for mayor, and the elections are very close, you know, around the corner in 2 weeks or so. There are two Hispanics running for mayor of Dominican descent. City council is controlled by Latinos and so forth. So the future of US Hispanics is growing in numbers, it's growing in economic power, and is contributing more and more to the benefit of the US society. Next one, please. Thank you very much. So I would like to introduce very quickly my great friend of many years, Professor Zanibel Melo. She has created curriculum for universities. She has taught in colleges. She founded a company back in Massachusetts, and now she lived in Florida. She has a very progressive, great company. She's making a lot of money. Well, I am not from the IRS, so don't worry about it, Zanibel. But it's my great pleasure to introduce her. She's literally an expert. She's truly an expert in multilingual communications, in social and digital marketing. She has an MBA, my great friend. Always a pleasure to share the stage with you, Zanibel. So take it away.
All right, thank you, Eduardo. Thank you very much. I was a professor and course director for Full Sail University, one of the top 10 media schools in the country. That's where the ESPN lab was born. That's where WWE hosts some of their shows. And I have been very blessed to have that opportunity. I met Eduardo over 15 years ago when I launched my multimedia company in Revere, Massachusetts. Now because of COVID, we are 100% virtual, and we're the digital arm of Hispanic Market Solution, and the digital arm name is Higher Dreams. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about the platforms, the digital platforms that are very effective to market and recruit Latinos. And as you see in the chart here, Facebook is number one. It doesn't matter what Facebook does and how many public relation disasters they find themselves in, Latinos never leave Facebook. They are the number one platform for US Hispanic communication. And why are they number one? It's because you see Facebook's mission is to connect people. And most of Hispanics family members outside of the country and inside are in Facebook. So culturally, Facebook mission and how Facebook was built around connecting people makes a lot of sense, and it connects with the Hispanic community. Nearly half of US Hispanics, Facebook friends or family members are on Facebook, only compared to 36% of the total population. So Facebook, the way that it was built, it just makes sense when you are marketing and actually recruiting for jobs. It also works very, very well. So how do you recruit? I'm going to talk a little bit, about market and recruitment. So Facebook, it's always trying to, be a one-stop shop for a lot of different things. And of course, they mimic, they copy, and they innovate other social media platforms, almost creating some sort of monopoly in the industry, in the digital world. But I have a specific sample, because I'm not only work in the digital market and all that kind of stuff, but I also own another business with my husband. I have a landscaping business with my husband, and we use Facebook a lot to recruit our crew members. So you do have under your business page on Facebook a section where you can post your jobs, and it works very well organically. If you're a smaller business and you're perhaps looking to recruit or interview about 100 or 200 people, then you can get away with posting a job on Facebook, a job opportunity on Facebook organically. If you need to, increase that, then of course there's a paid version of posting a job on Facebook. And this is how it looks like. You fill out the form. This is your employer page. You put the job title, the location, the salary. It says the salary range is optional, but with today's marketplace, what I have encountered, not only in our multimedia business, but also on our other businesses, is that we need to offer a competitive salary to be able to retain, and that it's the same thing for Hispanics, and to be able to retain them, they have to see, that they're being paid fairly, that it's not a minimum wage, and the sentiment across the country right now is people want to be paid a living wage, and it's the same for Hispanics. So do not leave that blank. Add what are the salary range, either your salary annually, or if you're paying per hour, job type, job description, so on and so forth. This is how this is our one of our businesses, Heavenly Landscaping and Lawn. We posted, we have a couple trucks, and we needed to add crew members to that truck, and we had a little bit of a difficulty retaining some crew members. And we increased from, if you are a simple laborer here in the state of Florida, you get paid between $10 to $13 an hour, and we had to increase that to $16 an hour to be able to retain. Right now, we have retained 4 out of everybody that we interviewed, 4 crew members at between $16 and $18 an hour. And if you see here, we received, I don't know if you can see it well here, over 100 applications, and we marked 27 that we're interested in interviewing, and then 10 as maybe. So every time that we're developing a new route and all of that, we post it here on Facebook. And that's more for the general population. You're also able to, when you post the ad and you're looking for a specific type of profile, for the person that you're recruiting, then that's the paid version. So you have the organic version that whoever sees that and they tell their family or friends, hey, this company is looking for a job. Then you can have that organic reach that is non-paid. But if you're looking for a specific, if you're recruiting a specific person, then you can pay for that service and say, I want to recruit a person that has, experience, for example, specifically in the restaurant industry, and has maybe some sort of license, or you can do that on the paid version, be really specific there. So what other platform can we use? So we have Facebook as the number one. And then on WhatsApp, WhatsApp is very big among Latinos, but a different type of Hispanics or Latinos. So the WhatsApp is very popular with the immigrant population. There are 10 million more US Hispanics on WhatsApp than on Instagram. And WhatsApp became super popular. And WhatsApp, it's a little bit different, than Facebook. It's a messaging app, more so than your regular social media. You can post their stories, Instagram, WhatsApp stories. They try to make it all, look a little bit the same across all Facebook products. But with WhatsApp, it became super popular because you can connect with your family and friends in Latin America and the Caribbean for free. A great source of misinformation is WhatsApp and Facebook, unfortunately. And it's due to its massive popularity. You can market effectively through WhatsApp. And right now, I am part of at least 20 groups on WhatsApp, and they range. The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, where I am located, have multiple groups on WhatsApp where we communicate with each other. And we meet every Tuesday, but throughout the week, we communicate with each other through WhatsApp. I'm part of a large Venezuelan community here in Central Florida. And we also communicate through WhatsApp. Groups are great there, and you can also use groups to recruit and market on Facebook as well. I don't know if you noticed, but Facebook has spent a lot of money to push specific groups. So people that are new in your area in the Merrimack Valley, or like Eduardo said, they're moving away from the urban areas and going to more or suburban community. You can build your own group or find a group where you can post information of where they can find their local bank, their local YMCA. We do have groups like that here, where there's a lot of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans that have added groups on Facebook and WhatsApp. And when they move to a new area, they're looking, where do I go to, to the nearest supermarket? How can I find a doctor? Where should I put my children to school? And all of these questions are being asked in these groups. Explore it. It's very effective to market and recruit in groups, beside your Facebook business pages and all of that, because it's more personal. And an analogy that I like to use as far as finding these specific groups in either Facebook or WhatsApp is like when you are on Facebook, and most people that I know that are older than 35 are usually on Facebook or WhatsApp in the Hispanic market. It's like you are inviting people in your news feed when you open your Facebook and to be in your front lawn, and you're saying hi to your neighbors, when you open Facebook, hello to your neighbors, and it's an open space in front of your, in front of your house, in front of your lawn. But when you join a group of people with similar interests, and on Facebook groups or on WhatsApp, you're inviting them to your backyard. So that's the best analogy that I could share with you when you are sharing information, marketing, and recruiting Hispanics using groups. So so are you going to use content, that is in Spanish, dominant, bilingual, English? This is a little information about Instagram. So you have to pay attention. You have Facebook that are over 35 years old. anyone that is over 35 years old love to use Facebook. Older adults, Facebook and WhatsApp, and then younger adults, Instagram. So you have to have a clear understanding of who's your target, who you are marketing to, recruiting to. And Instagram, actually, Latinos on Instagram see it, and similar, to whites, they see Facebook as like, my grandmother is there or my parent is there, and I don't care about that. 38% of Instagram users are Hispanic, and over half are women. And, they're your 25 to 34-year-olds. They're like the largest audience on Instagram, followed by your 18 to 24-year-olds. And half of Instagram users, Hispanic Instagram users, prefer content in English, and a quarter only prefer to be, recruited or marketed to in Spanish. And the next quarter, 3.3 million prefer to be marketed to in bilingual. So I have here, I'm sorry, I was reading somebody that had to leave the group. Okay, so type of content that resonates very, very well with Hispanics, whether you're doing it on Facebook, on WhatsApp, or on Instagram, are imagery. And you see this picture, it has become like very popular for some reason. It's a stock image, and it has become a very popular image that a lot of, and it was an actual accident that, TV and we use TV and presentations using the same image, but it's an image that resonates with the Hispanic culture. So when you are putting content out there and celebrate the Hispanic culture, use imagery that highlights them, that connects with them through language, and content. So it's important to know the culture. And I know it can be a little bit complex, but if you see the demographic composition of your area, and that in your area you have mostly Puerto Ricans or mostly Dominicans, then learn about what they care about, what their culture is, because although we speak the same language is one thing, we speak the same language, but the culture is very different. What we care about is different. So when you're trying to market to them or recruit them, make sure that you understand them a little better, so that way your marketing and your recruitment will be successful. So video ads are very, very effective. Bilingual Hispanics and Spanish dominant Hispanics are the most receptive to video ads, especially when you're trying to convey a little bit of a complex situation, if you will, especially when it had to do with technology. Make sure that you use video that is clear, that is concise, that is, at least between 15 seconds to 30 seconds long. The videos that are 15 seconds long are the most successful. And 80% of US Hispanics on average prefer ads that incorporate Spanish messaging. So if you have culturally relevant content, 80% of US Hispanics, they prefer this Spanish messaging. So with static ads, so you have different types of ads. You have, your video ads, you have static ads, which is your pictures, your regular ads that maybe you're launching a campaign and you're putting your ad on the newspaper and people recognize it because they saw it on Facebook. So make sure that that piece of content, the static content, is in Spanish, most preferably. If it's video, you can get away with being it bilingual. And your video, it's important to add subtitles, because more than half of people that are on their phone looking at videos, these videos are muted, and they have the opportunity to read the subtitles. So these are different. So Facebook is like an onion, and so is Instagram and WhatsApp. There's different places where people hang out. You have your Facebook news feed, which is what you see as soon as you enter Facebook. You have your Facebook instant article video ads. And on the bottom, especially when you're on mobile, there are ways in which you can, click to be on the news feed. You can click to be on the feed where you have all of your actual articles, news articles, and things like that. Then you have the section where there's like a play button for all your video ads, and that's their Facebook suggested video ads. So when you launch a campaign and you're doing video, you have many different dimensions as you see here. So when you're launching a campaign, you're not only putting one, square video, but you have to adjust that video to the different, segments of Facebook. So you may be, distributing 14 different types of videos in different dimensions. So, and you need to, figure out, like, do an assessment internally on what is it that you want, in the type of profile that you want to attract, your customer profile, and then you can go from there. So mobile. So what type of Hispanics are they over-indexed on their phone? There could be on their phone and watching TV at the same time. So you have traditional media colliding with new media together. So when you're launching a campaign, whether it's to market or recruit, you make sure that that is consistent. I know a couple of years back, Ford did a game on a Super Bowl where you saw the commercial on the Super Bowl. It was many years ago, and you continued following that commercial and that game that they added there in their commercial online. So that was very innovative and very creative on their part when they were launching their new model of car. So you can think of innovative ways. Any company, organization, it doesn't matter. If you want to survive in the future, you have to be innovative and creative and keep track of what's going on, because the world's moving really, really fast, and COVID, accelerated digital up to 10 years in 1 year. And that's really significant, to the point where, sometime next week, or in the next couple of weeks, Facebook is going to have their conference, and they're going to reveal their new name, because they want to focus their direction on building what is called a metaverse, a virtual reality. They are leading in the virtual reality world. So Facebook is just going to become a product of whatever, they decide to name their company. Almost like Google, Google is a search engine, but the actual, name of the company is Alphabet. Is going to be similar. So watch out. In the next 2 weeks, things are going to change. Again, I don't think it's going to help them with their PR, situation. But when you're thinking about reaching Hispanics and these three different, and it's funny that these three different apps and platforms are owned, by Facebook, but the way that we communicate through these different platforms is different, and the type of demographics within the Hispanic market is different as well. So this is a little bit of a recap. So if you want to, and you can develop this gradually, you don't have to do it like all at once, because it could be a little bit overwhelming. So if you feel confident, with Facebook, and you want to start with Facebook and marketing and recruiting Latinos with Facebook. You can do that when you feel confident and things are going, things are moving. Then you can transition, to Instagram. And then when you're comfortable with Instagram, then you can transition to WhatsApp. If you have the staff to be able to do it all, 3 of them at once, then by all means. But I usually advise people to, all of this can be very overwhelming with, and it doesn't even matter if you have, 20 people on your team. So I usually advise to start with one platform, understand it, develop it, test it, and then go to the next and then the next. So for Facebook, overall communication, this includes, Facebook Messenger. 60% of US Hispanics use Facebook Messenger to talk with friends and family outside of the US. Is the #1 place of communication for Hispanics. They are 50% more likely to use their contacts, friends, and family to find a job on Facebook. And, it's the most logical option for a lot of Hispanics, just because of the mission of Facebook to connect people with others, and is also the primary news source besides WhatsApp. And 80% of users prefer Spanish content. Now, when it's, static imaging. With Instagram, the US Hispanics on Instagram, keep in mind that your age group is important. So we have segmentations of age groups. So Facebook is your, 35 and over Hispanics. Instagram is, 25 and over is, the #1, and then 18 and over is the second most important age group. And more than half are women. So if you have a product or service, that you want to launch, even if you want to try it organically first, that most likely you're going to reach to a Latina or Hispanic women. Half of Hispanic Instagram users prefer to consume their content in English. And remember that it's half prefer it and English, 25% bilingual, and then the other 25% in Spanish, as I mentioned in the previous slide. And then WhatsApp is used to share news, conducting business, and also it's the #1 way of reaching the Latino voter, believe it or not. Most popular in the immigrant community, and is the #1 source of news consumption. Actually, the CDC, and I added here, the CDC saw how important WhatsApp was in communicating with Latinos, and they launched news information about COVID in Spanish. Unfortunately, both Facebook and WhatsApp are going through a lot of challenges with misinformation and, politically, and with, the health situation that we're going right now. But it's still a very effective way to communicate. And on WhatsApp, the type of content that's preferred is in Spanish. So that's like a snapshot of the 3 most important platforms where you can reach the Hispanics, whether you want to market to them or recruit. So with that, I'm going to pass on the baton to my friend Eduardo.
I think Eduardo must have had to leave for a second. So I guess right now I'll just ask if there's any questions for Professor Melo. Is there anything you'd like to add, Professor Melo, before we sign off?
Well, we are, if you think of anything, make sure to reach out to us. We're available. I want to thank you so much for attending. Hopefully, hopefully this information was helpful to you moving forward. I know that, 2020 was a hard year for most of us, but, we have a really good opportunity in our hands. You know where to go and where to get started. These are, the top 3 platforms for you. And if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to us.
Perfect.
So Eduardo, if you want to take it over, you're muted.
Yeah, I actually had to get another tool. I mean, I'm on my phone right now. Somehow my my laptop froze. So, but it just happened. Things happen. So no, very, very interesting, Zanibel. So I mean, just to give everybody an overview, the first thing that companies need to do is you need to be intentional. At least take a look at the upside market potential of Latinos. I mean, does it make sense for you? If you are going to be engaging with them, if you're going to be inviting them, make sure that you have the tools, that you have the people, that you have a welcoming environment, so that they will feel that they're being taken care of. When people call, if you have a call center or people answer the phone, if the person answering is not bilingual, then you should have somebody that they could be transferred to. And at least you can teach some very introductory statements or phrases to people that may be answering the phone. Overall, I mean, the Latino market is here to stay. I mean, we are growing in importance economically as consumers and also as a part of the labor force. And I hope that you get into that bandwagon, because if you do not, your competition is already there. So I really appreciate your time. And if anybody has any questions, and if not, have a happy Friday.
Perfect. Well, I just want to say thank you to our good friend Eduardo Crespo, and our new friend, Professor Melo, for taking the time to speak with all of our members. And what a wonderful presentation as well. It's, as you mentioned, Ed, this is a great opportunity for our members. So I just want to say thank you both again for the time this morning.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. And thank you to our presenters again. And thank you all for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next time at the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce webinars and in-person programs. So thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.